Welcome, lovers of tales and legends, to our channel, where good and wonder always bring us together, where we weave reality from imagination and lessons that touch our hearts from wisdom. Before we begin our journey today into a magical world full of secrets, I ask you to stop time for a moment. Take a deep breath and tell us in the comments now from which country you are following us. Your comments are the bridge that connects us in this wide world, and today we have a story unlike any other. It is the story of the princess and the magical cat, a story that will take your breath away and change your perspective on many things around you. So let's dive into the depths of this world. In a distant kingdom called Emerald, where the sun shyly rose over towering castle spires that touched the clouds, lived Princess Norhan. She was a young girl in the prime of her youth, possessing breathtaking beauty and wide eyes like a calm sea that hid storms of questions in its depths. Norhan was not just a princess living in absolute luxury, she was a prisoner in a golden cage. The castle was surrounded by high walls and lush gardens stretching for thousands of miles, but she knew nothing of what lay beyond those walls. Her room was filled with silk and jewels, and servants anticipated her every need before she even spoke it. Yet there was a vast emptiness in her heart, a deep feeling of loneliness and boredom. Every day was the same. The faces she saw were identical, artificial smiles and endless compliments. Every evening, she would stand on her high balcony, watching birds fly freely over distant forests, wondering, is this life? To own everything and feel nothing? On a moonlit night, as silence enveloped the palace and everyone but her slept, a strange, cold breeze crept into her room. It wasn't an ordinary wind. It carried an unknown fragrance, the scent of wildflowers she had never smelled in the palace's manicured gardens. Suddenly, she heard a faint movement at the edge of the balcony. Nurhan slowly turned, her heart pounding, to find a creature unlike anything she had seen in the palace's books or paintings. It was a cat, but not just any cat. Its fur was white as snow, shimmering with a strange silvery glow under the moonlight, and its eyes were mismatched. One blue like the ocean's depth, the other golden like the sun's disk. Nurhan felt no fear. Instead, she felt a strange pull towards this creature. The cat approached her with confident steps and sat on the edge of the balcony, looking at the princess with penetrating gazes as if reading her thoughts. For the first time, something incredible happened. Nurhan heard a whispering voice in her head, a soft yet powerful voice saying, "Gold does not fill the soul, Nurhan, and freedom is not given but seized." The princess was astonished and stepped back slightly, whispering with a trembling voice, "Who are you, and how do you speak?" The cat, which seemed to be smiling a mysterious smile, replied, "I am the guardian of secrets. I came because the call of your heart was louder than the sound of the walls. Are you seeking the truth, or do you wish to remain in the illusion of comfort?" The question struck like an arrow. Norhan hesitated for a moment, looked at her plush bed and at her shimmering jewels, then looked at the unknown darkness beyond the balcony, and said with sudden determination, "I want to know what is out there. I want to feel life." The cat leaped gracefully onto the balcony railing and said, Then follow me, but know that the path is not paved with red carpets as you are accustomed to." Driven by an irresistible impulse, Nurhan put on a simple cloak she kept for disguise and jumped after the cat, crossing the castle walls for the first time in her life. The landing was frightening, but the magical cat, whom Nurhan named Luna, skillfully guided her. As soon as the princess's feet touched the rough earth outside the walls, she felt a shiver run through her body. It wasn't just fear, but the awe of new beginnings. They walked together towards the dense forest that everyone warned her about, the forest of shadows. The trees were gigantic, their branches intertwining like the arms of mythical beasts trying to block out the moonlight. The sounds in the forest were completely different from the silence of the palace. The hoot of owls, the rustling of leaves, and the sound of unseen creatures' footsteps. Luna, walking ahead and illuminating the path with a silvery glow emanating from her body, said, "Beware, Nurhan. The forest is not evil, but it shows no mercy to the weak or the greedy." Nurhan, stumbling over tree roots, asked, "Why did you mention greed? I haven't been greedy for anything. I have all the gold." Luna replied without turning, "It's not just the greed for gold, but the soul's greed to possess what it doesn't understand its value. You will face tests tonight that will reveal your true mettle." As they delved deeper into the forest, the weather suddenly changed. A stormy wind blew, and the trees began to move as if they were living creatures. The first obstacle appeared before them, a raging river with black waters and no bridge to cross. Nurhan stood perplexed. "How will we cross? I can't swim in this current." The cat looked at her with its golden eye and said, "Fear creates barriers, and faith builds bridges. Look with your heart, not with your eyes." Nurhan closed her eyes, tried to calm her breath, and remembered Luna's words. When she opened her eyes, she saw stones skillfully floating just beneath the water's surface that hadn't been visible before. She carefully placed her foot and crossed, and this was the first time she trusted her intuition rather than what her eyes saw. As the journey continued, hunger and thirst began to gnaw at the pampered princess's body. She saw strange fruits shimmering like jewels on a nearby tree. She eagerly ran towards them to pick them, but the cat cried out, "Stop! Not everything that glitters can be eaten." Nurhan recoiled at the last moment to find that the fruits had transformed into poisonous scorpions as soon as her hand approached them. "This is your second lesson," Luna said. "Appearances are deceiving, and greed for easy gain can be fatal." They continued walking until they reached the heart of the forest. And there was the great surprise. A wide clearing covered with bones, and in its center, a huge cave from which a frightening red light emanated. From the cave emerged a colossal giant, his skin like rock, his eyes like burning embers. This was the Giant of Greed, the guardian of a phantom treasure. The giant laughed with a voice like thunder that made the earth tremble beneath Nurhan's feet. "A small princess comes to me on her own feet? Have you come to steal the jewel?" Nurhan trembled and hid behind a rock. But Luna the cat stood bravely and said to Nurhan in her mind, This giant feeds on your fear and greed. If you show fear, he will devour you. And if you show greed for his treasure, he will enslave you. Confront him with the truth." Nurhan gathered her courage, came out of her hiding place, and stood before the giant. Despite her small size compared to him, she cried out loudly, "I did not come to steal your treasures. I have enough gold to build mountains. I came seeking myself, seeking my freedom." The giant stopped laughing and looked at her in surprise. He had never encountered anyone who didn't want his treasure. The giant cunningly said, "Then, if you don't want gold, what will you give me for your life?" Nurhan thought quickly. She remembered all the lessons she had learned in the palace about politics, but she realized they were useless here. Here, honesty prevailed. She said, "I will give you something you don't possess and never will, despite all your treasures." The giant asked with curiosity and greed, "And what is that?" Nurhan replied, "I will give you mercy. I will leave you to live in this golden prison alone, because despite your size and strength, you are the true prisoner here, guarding fruitless trees and uneaten gold. I am free, and you are a slave to your treasure." The words were simple, but struck the giant like lightning. He roared in anger and raised his hand to strike her. But at that moment, Luna, the magical cat, leaped, and her eyes transformed into two bright beams of light that blinded the giant for moments. The cat cried, "Now, Nurhan, run towards the exit. Don't look back." Nurhan ran at top speed, branches striking her face, and the giant pursued her with heavy steps that shook the ground. Her breath was ragged, but she did not stop. For the first time, she felt the value of life because she was on the verge of losing it. She saw the light of dawn looming on the horizon at the edge of the forest. The cat leaped beside her, and together they crossed the dividing line between the forest and the plain. The giant stopped at the edge of the shadow, unable to emerge into the light, for he was a creature made of darkness and greed. Nurhan collapsed onto the dewy grass, panting, laughing, and crying all at once. Luna the cat, whose size had returned to normal and whose glow had faded, looked at her and said, "You have survived, princess, not because you are strong in body, but because you are strong in spirit. You faced fear and greed and triumphed with contentment and courage." Nurhan rose and looked at the distant castle. She no longer saw it as a prison, but as a place she could change. Nurhan said, "I understand now. Adventure is not in escaping, but in having the courage to change reality. I was looking for gold outside, but the real gold is what I learned tonight." The princess returned to her palace with the sunrise, sneaking into her room. But she was no longer the same girl who had left. The next morning, Nurhan ordered the palace garden gates to be opened to the public and began using her wealth to help neighboring villages. She no longer felt bored because she had found a purpose. Luna the cat remained by her side, always reminding her that true magic lies in giving, not taking, and that happiness is not in what we possess, but in what we are. And so, my friends, the story of the princess and the magical cat ends. It teaches us that life is an adventure that requires a brave heart, that contentment is an inexhaustible treasure, and that we all possess a magical power within us waiting to be discovered. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share the story with those you love. May you be safe and protected by God. See you in a new adventure. See you in a new adventure.